Yes, people, back with another video, and today we're talking all things Kieran McKenna. Before we get into anything though, you know we gotta do the shout outs. Massive shout outs to Angel Care Homes for all your care needs in the Black Country and Birmingham area. Massive shout outs to Mark Darcy for all your formal menswear needs. And of course the Desi Ballers, highlighting all South Asians at all levels in the beautiful game. I'll put their details in the description, and make sure you smash that like button, and if you haven't already, or if you're new here, click that subscribe button and turn that notifications on. But let's get into it then. So who is Kieran McKenna? Kieran McKenna is a product of the Tottenham Hotspur Academy, but in 2009, aged just 22 years old, he had to retire from the game due to a nasty hip injury. A few mere months later though, he found himself in his first role as a sports scientist at Loughborough. A year later, he became a youth coach at Nottingham Forest. 2 years later after that, he became a youth coach at Leicester City, and he had a brief stint in Canada as a technical assistant in Vancouver before coming back to becoming a youth coach at Tottenham Hotspur. It wasn't until 2014, 5 years after he retired, that he got his first manager role when he became the under-18s manager for Tottenham Hotspurs. Whilst he didn't manage too many games there, they did average 2.25 points per game whilst under McKenna. In 2016 though, he left Tottenham Hotspur and he joined Man United, initially as a scout. He did that for a couple of years before then becoming the under-18s manager at Man United. During that period is when he really got his teeth into management. I think he had just over 50 games he managed, and during that time, Man United under-18s averaged 1.98 points per game. He was eventually given his opportunity and promoted to assistant manager at Man United. I think it was Jose that gave him his chance, but during his time there as assistant manager, he was the assistant to Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralph Raniak, and possibly Michael Carrick. I think he was there for a little bit as well. But yeah, so wealth of experience with some of the top coaches in the game, top managers in the game. But then he left Man United on the 16th of December 2021. He agreed to become the Ipswich Town manager. Took his first training session on the 20th of December, and on the 29th of December, managed his first game as Ipswich Town manager, which was a sign of things to come because it was a win. Ipswich then went to win on 5 on the spin. There was also a period where there was 4 games of outscoring, but it finished with a mid-table finish. But the morale and, you know, as an Ipswich fan, the belief around the club was that we've got the right man. We like the way he plays football. He seems a very level-headed person. He seems a good fit for our club. And we were excited. So 22-23 season is McKenna's first full season as a manager. And that season has got expectation. We need promotion out of League One. We cannot stay in this league another season. McKenna has to get us out. Mark Ashton, the Ipswich Town CEO, had spoken very highly, and so far it seemed to be okay, but Ipswich had finished 11th and we needed to get out of the league. And in his first season, boy did he deliver. Scoring over 100 goals, finishing just short of 100 points, but really smashed League One and got us back to the Championship. And in the 23-24 season, there was expectations because of how well we'd seen McKenna and this group of players, and of course that with the ownership group and, you know, how successful the transfer windows had been. We were hopeful that we would not only stay up but do something good. I had us finishing in the top 6. Although after the Exeter game last season, I did say that we might have to call McKenna Drake because we may be getting back-to-back promotions. And that's exactly what happened. A team that had been written off all season, that had been competing with the likes of Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, plus established Championship clubs and parachute payment clubs that were in there. Ipswich found themselves finishing second, 1 point behind Leicester and 6 points ahead of third place Leeds. It was a record-breaking season, highest points ever accumulated by a newly promoted team. Most amount of consecutive wins in Ipswich Town history. Highest Championship points tally in Ipswich Town history. Most amount of goals scored in the Championship season in Ipswich Town history. He was seeing the records and he was breaking them. McKenna had done what very few have and will do, which was get back-to-back promotions with the same club. So it was no surprise that he's going to be tipped for other jobs and other clubs will be sniffing around him. We had it during the season with the likes of Crystal Palace, But he showed his commitment. He had a job to do, and he says, "I'm going to get Ipswich to the Premier League," and he delivered. So when we hear the likes of Brighton, Chelsea, and Man United being linked with Kieran McKenna, it's not surprising. But let's break them down. And between those three offers and an inevitable new contract offer from Ipswich Town, let's look at which really is the best fit for Kieran McKenna. So let's look at Brighton. Brighton are a very good club. They're an established Premier League club. They've been there for 7 years. They've got a good structure. They've got a good owner. They know how to find talent. They know how to sell talent as well. I think Chelsea must have a direct debit to Brighton at the moment. They look like a very well-run club. And it's no surprise that Mark Ashton, the Ipswich Town CEO, has referenced Brighton before as a club that Ipswich want to emulate. But is it a good fit for Kieran McKenna? Now let's look at what makes a club good. So let's start at the top. You've got to have a good footballing structure. You've got to have a good communication between from the very top to the bottom. Your CEO, your ownership group, your recruitment, your operations team, all of these things, you need to have the right people there. McKenna needs to feel that, okay, if I need a certain player, I know this person's going to deliver. So then the second part is the coach and the manager. McKenna. It's not just McKenna. We've seen it before as Ipswich fans. You need the whole package. You don't just get the one man. You know, this ain't pick and mix. You have to get the bundle deal. It's McKenna and Per and Lee Grant and Rennie Gilmartin and all the other people, right? It's them as a package. Then it's about how they can affect the third group, which is your players. Do your players park their egos at the door? Right, that's a question that he's going to have to ask. Brighton, maybe the expectations on the fans won't be as high, but there's a reason their current manager left. You know, was that a conflict with the board or was it a split dressing room? We don't know. But McKenna's got to know that, is he going to be able to demand that respect and importantly, put his style of play and his beliefs into that team? Because those set of players, wherever he goes, or even if he stays, they have to believe in what McKenna's doing. You know, Caden Jackson said it at the end in one of the interviews after the end of the season, where he said he would run through a brick wall. And that's pretty much for everyone. They've all said how he's the best manager they've had, how they have that belief in him. Are the Brighton players going to react the same way? Who knows? So for me, yes, the ownership group is there. I'm not sure on the players. And to be honest, the expectation, Brighton, and I'm going to be, and I don't mean to say this in any salty way or whatever, and I'm sure if any Brighton fans see this, they'll sure leave some comments or whatever, but I think Brighton have peaked as a football club at the moment. They're going to go through a bit of a reset period over the next few years. I don't see Brighton pushing for European space in the next 4 or 5 seasons. I think at the moment next season, if I'm being honest, I think they're gonna be. If McKenna stays with us, Brighton will finish below Ipswich Town. You can clip that. The problem with the model that Brighton have is you don't have that consistency. So when you got these superstars that maybe you want to build around, you're actually selling them to fund, the rest of the team. Which, hey, look, it works, you know what I mean? You don't see no FFP charges on them. So, yeah, and like I said, they're Premier League. But is that the right move for Kieran McKenna? Because for me, McKenna could do exactly what's happened at Brighton. McKenna could do that. McKenna could establish Ipswich Town as a Premier League team. So Chelsea just a poison chalice. Like it's a bit of a joke of a football club at the moment. The ownership group, they can't seem to be on the same page as the manager. There's clearly a conflict between the manager and the ownership group or the board or whatever you want to call them. So how is McKenna going to react to that? If McKenna wants to do something and bring someone in, they might say, well, hold on, we want this player because he's a superstar and he's going to sell shirts. And then you got the other part, which is, again, the players in the group. That seems like a very split dressing room. And there's a lot of egos there. How are you going to tell some of those players that are on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, used to being told they're so brilliant all the time, how are you going to get them to buy into your belief? How are you going to get players that traditionally don't track back to start tracking back? How are you going to get players that, traditionally just like to stay off the ball to start pressing? How many times this season did we get late winners because we were running? We were one of the fittest teams in the league. How was McKenna going to instill that on Chelsea? And then the other part is the fans. Like, don't go there and let that tarnish your reputation. Let Graham Potter be an example of that. It doesn't look like a good fit for McKenna. So then you got Man United. And I get it, Man United, it's your boyhood club. You support them. You're kind of criticised heavily when United were falling apart. You got maybe a bit of a point to prove. But prove the point. Going to Man United now is not a good move. It's not a good move. Steven Gerrard will tell you that. Frank Lampard will tell you that. Gerrard jumped ship from Rangers to go to Villa. If he'd have been patient, the Liverpool job would have come up and he'd have been in the frame. And as it happened, the Liverpool job did come up. His name was nowhere near the frame because he was not patient and he ruined his reputation. Whatever good he did at Rangers was undone. People forget Gerrard had them playing European football at Rangers in the finals. I think that's in the final. Within the final or semi-final, we got Rangers to a European semi or final. But people just remember him for almost getting Villa relegated. Lampard, Derby, did okay at Derby. I mean, I got my own opinions. If you spend that much money in the league and you finish in the playoffs and you don't, win at Wembley, is it a success? But anyway, by the by, they played some good football. He looked okay. And you thought, okay, cool. Maybe this is a manager that could be established in the game. A couple more seasons. Maybe in 5 years you might see him at Chelsea. He jumped too quick. And the thing is, people forget what he did at Chelsea. I can't even remember. I don't even know if he won a trophy. I don't think he won a trophy. But he jumped ship too early. And again, if you look at Chelsea now, again, ironically, Chelsea are one of these clubs that want one. If Lampard had been a bit patient and applied his craft and done everything, then I'm sure his name would have been in the window now and he'd be probably one of the top candidates. But it just so happened he didn't. His reputation went to shit. And now that's it. People don't talk about him anymore. So then staying at Ipswich, signing that deal, that is the only thing that makes sense. And I'm speaking, yes, I'm an Ipswich fan, but many neutrals will say the same. And you know what? I'm going to speak directly to you, Kieran. Listen to this and just hear it. I know Ashton's going to pitch something to you and Ed Schwartz and all the rest of it. But just hear it from me, yeah? And just hear me out, please. Yeah? So, I get it, you're ambitious. I get it, you'll back yourself. 100% get it. From what I know of you and what I've heard from secondhand information and all the rest of it, you are something special. I get that. You're ambitious. You want to go to the top. And listen, I have every belief that you will win a Champions League one day. And if you eventually go to international football, you'll probably win a World Cup. Right, I've got every belief in that. But now's not the time, Kieran. Like, you've just done back-to-back. Why would you not take us and manage in the Premier League and test yourself? If you're worried about reputation, then jumping to Man United and Chelsea is going to do more damage than staying at Ipswich Town. But say we get relegated, right, just like Burnley did. But just like Burnley, when they went up, Company was being tipped for the Tottenham Hotspur job. He's been relegated and he's about to take over at Bayern Munich. Which is the bigger job? If you do a season with us in the Premier League, I genuinely feel we will finish in the top 12. I feel it. I can feel it. I worry. I wouldn't say I worry because I'm not bothered if we get relegated, as mad as it sounds. But with you, with Kieran McKenna leading Ipswich Town out in the Premier League, it just fits. It just seems right. You've got the fans, right? We love you, Kieran, and you know that, right? You got the group of players, right? You know how the players are. We've seen how you've transformed some of these players, right? And got them now to Premier League players. and then the relationship you have with Mark Ashton and the ownership group and everything, you've got that. You just have to look at Mark Ashton when he talks about you in interviews. He talks like a proud father. You know, they've just had another 105 million invested by Bright Path Sports. You know, that Sam Simon and that. You know, that's money coming into the club. And we were already told a lot of that ain't going on transfers. That's going on the training ground. That's things that you want, Kieran McKenna. Are you going to be able to get that at Chelsea or Man United or Brighton? Like I said, Kieran McKenna should stay at Ipswich Town because he's taken us from the depths of League One to the promised land. Whatever happens next season, if McKenna's at the helm, and even if we got relegated, it will not do his reputation any damage, because the football and the style of play that the Premier League is going to see under McKenna and Ipswich Town is going to be phenomenal, and there'll be clubs lining up at his door next summer. And if you want to go next summer, Kieran McKenna, you have all our blessing. But please, brother, one season in the Prem, you got to do it for us. After 22 years away, you're already being talked about as a legend. You know, write your own legacy. Don't finish it short. The book ain't done yet. We've got to write a few more chapters. And the next chapter is Kieran McKenna taking Ipswich on a European journey. Because I feel it, man. Like, if McKenna stays with us, and I know I'll probably sound deluded and all the rest of it, but, yo, Nuno did it under Wolves. Why can't we? You know, everyone's wrote us off from the beginning. You know, last season, the season before. But we're here now in the Premier League. And I don't know what else to say. It was just, 280 characters wasn't enough. Enough of you kept messaging me saying, oh, what do you think about this, that, and the other? And it was just easy to put a video out, to be honest. So, yeah, man. Kieran, if you do see this, on behalf of every Ipswich Town fan, stay. Sign a contract. Lead us out in the Premier League. And show everyone how Ipswich Town, Kieran McKenna, and Game Changer is a perfect fit.